Namo Aditava. Thanks so much for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This wonderful sound calls us back to our true home. The third mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I vow to cultivate responsibility and learn ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. I'm determined not to engage in sexual relations without love and a long-term commitment. To preserve the happiness of myself and others, I'm determined to respect my commitments and the commitments of others. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. For our Dharma lesson, we've been reading More Than Mindfulness, Widening the Field of Practice by the Monastics of the Thai Forest Sangha. And we're continuing in a talk by Ajahn Jayasaro called The Paramis as Practices of Liberation. Aditana, the power of resolution or of vows, is the next parami. This is a very good quality to cultivate if you're a doubter. If you're often thinking, shall I do this? Shall I do that? Shall I do neither? Shall I do both? Should I be asking myself so many questions? There's a story about an old Persian gentleman who had a very long beard. One day his grandson said, "Granddad, when you're asleep, is your beard outside the blanket or inside?" He couldn't answer. That night he lay down to sleep and he felt for his beard. It's outside, but it doesn't feel quite right. So he put it inside and he thought, no, that doesn't feel quite right either. And he put it outside again. This went on all night and he got no sleep at all. He ended up cutting off his beard in the morning. Excessive doubt, followed by a rash decision made merely to escape from the torment of doubting, is a common phenomenon. A wiser way to be free of doubt is to make vows. But there is a skill to it. If you make a vow too difficult and you can't keep it, then you're going to feel hopeless and be discouraged. If you make a vow too easy to keep, you're not going to have any sense of accomplishment. It's like playing a sport. Say you play tennis with someone who's much better than you, and you get beaten 6-love, 6-love. That's hopeless, and you don't want to do that anymore. But if you win 6-love, 6-love, that's not very enjoyable either. If you play with someone who's just a bit better than you, then you find you're playing better than you thought you could. Somehow, their slight superiority brings forth something within you that you didn't realize you had. And this is what happens when you make intelligent vows. Joining and leaving the monastic order is like being born and dying. It's difficult to get born. It takes a long time. It's very easy to die. It can happen at any moment, very easily. It's very difficult to become a monk, and it's very easy to leave. There's no special ritual involved. All you have to do to leave the monkhood is to say words to the effect of, "I've had enough," and for somebody to understand what you said. That's it. You're no longer a monk. Very easy. So you can imagine that whenever a young monk meets some kind of difficulty, one part of his mind is probably thinking, I'll just throw it all in. I've had enough. There are no lifetime vows, but that kind of doubt and irresolution can torture the minds of young monastics. So, as teachers, we often recommend making a private vow for 5 years or 3 years and say, just forget about the possibility of leaving and doing something else and giving up on this for a certain period of time. 3 years or 5 years. Put all your doubts to one side for a certain period of time and then decide whether you're cut out for this life. It clarifies and focuses the mind. you find that by cutting off that doubt and irresolution, you access some real energy. There is liberation from doubt and irresolution and confusion. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. Namo Adidafa. Thanks so much for joining me today.